As most of you are probably aware, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has crazy performance issues, low FPS, especially when moving on the mount. And I found a way that you can fix this to some degree, a pretty significant upgrade, basically, to your normal gameplay. Now, this won't work in all scenarios because some scenarios you don't have control of your character, and you need to be able to control your character to get more frames. But if you do know how to show you, you can get significantly more frames per second while running around the world yourself and exploring and fighting Pokemon. So the first thing is there's more than one part to this. The first one, you might just notice the first one, you don't need any more help, but there's actually more than just the first part too. So what you're going to do is say you get on your mount, and I'm in one of the worst performance areas in the entire game that I'm aware of, which is right near Artisan, so to the northeast of Artisan. And if you run around this area, you'll likely get, like, depending on your Switch, anywhere from 10 to like 25 FPS or something. And there's a simple way to increase that FPS. So if you hold basically L2, but it's called ZL on Switch, it'll put you in this mode. Now what you do is you look down as far as you want to risk. The further down you look, the better your FPS will be. If you look straight down while holding ZL, you'll actually run the game, even in the worst performance areas, you'll get basically maximum frame rate. But then obviously you can't see where you're going. So you need to compromise between that and being able to see where you're going still. So depending on the elevation of the ground, you get better FPS. So if you're going uphill, it's kind of worse. If you're going downhill, it's actually the worst kind of thing. When you're going uphill, it's the easiest. But even downhill, I would angle my camera like this. And then even when I sprint, now I have like an additional 10 FPS. And I just try to like compromise between looking up enough to where I can actually see where I'm going and hopefully not a Pokemon spawn in my face. Pokemon actually spawn in closer the further down you're looking because then there's less stuff to load. But it's not perfect, but it causes a significant performance increase when you do this. And I do it literally everywhere I go whenever I'm actually trying to just go fast or something. It's still possible to run into random Pokemon spawns in some areas, though, unfortunately. Okay, so the next performance trick is for battles. So knowing what we know from the past thing, how can we use this for battles? Well, there's a few different ways. It depends on the terrain that you're standing on. It depends on just a lot of different factors. So you have to play with it depending on where you're at. But one of the most consistent ones is to look straight down by pushing down on the left thumbstick and try to get it to where you're not looking at some kind of drop-off. Like, if I look back there and there's all that, like, stuff in the distance, that's the worst case scenario for FPS because everything that you can see, the Switch has to render. Literally by just making it go out of the viewport will make you get more FPS. So generally looking down is good, but also ZL will focus on the opposing Pokemon, which sometimes can get you an even closer to the ground zoom in, which can make you get even more FPS while battling, which is really big because battles literally drag on so long when you're in a spot where it's like 10 FPS because then it's literally the game's just running that much slower. So this trick I do all the time, and it helps me be able to battle in like actual normal intended game speed. And I have one last trick that will save you just as much time, maybe, or even more depending on how you play the game. If you ever notice, one thing that's awful is opening the menus because the lag will, based on what's on your screen, the lag will continue while in the menus. So if you're in a laggy area, look straight down at the ground like this, and every time before you open a menu. And this will give you additional FPS while using menus, which will, again, make the game feel less sluggish and just play better in general. Now, like I was saying, this isn't going to apply to everywhere because, like, during a gym battle, you're still going to have the people who are, like, jumping up and down in the background at, like, 1 FPS and stuff. The camera can't be controlled and you can't do anything, like, during a cutscene or something. But any part of the normal gameplay cycle of you running around, fighting Pokemon, exploring and all that, you can get way more frame per second by doing the tricks that I showed you. So I hope that helps you out, guys. That's really all we got for performance issues. I heard there's going to be an update coming at some point. I somehow struggle to believe it'll fix the performance issues as much as we would hope, but maybe they'll just like turn the grass render distance down or something. Because I feel like one of the worst things is this grass. Like, look how far the grass goes. Like, I don't know. Even if they do this like Ghost of Tsushima grass where it's insanely efficient, it's still like sketchy at best on a Nintendo Switch. But whatever they decide, if they cut something so we actually FPS, then we won't need to do this maybe. But I'm skeptical. Well, either way, those tricks will get you way more FPS during normal gameplay if you want to use them. Hopefully that helped you out. Now you know how to get more FPS while playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.